shall we? So, interestingly enough, our talk title this morning is Law as Womb. And it fits so perfectly with what is happening right now on planet Earth that the talk has literally been writing itself for the last 2 weeks. And we're going to talk about conception and development and birth that happens from the womb. Because we sometimes typically put the word "the" in front of law, which tends to distort it a bit for us, because it makes it the law, which tends to register in our brains as something separate in and of itself. And the truth is, it is actually the soul that we're talking about. We're talking about the activity of the infinite. It's part of, it is never separate from the one source. It is the activity of the one source. And so, if you think about procreation at the human level, that'll help you understand creation at the spiritual level. Now, with any kind of luck, the act of conception is fun. If it's not, get a different partner. I'm just saying. And so, perhaps, if we approached our spiritual creativity from that perspective, that we focused on putting into the activity of creation from an activity, from a mental construct of fun, of lightness, of joy, of love. Because, trust me, when I tell you, whatever you put in the womb grows and is delivered. So we get to choose what we're going to put in creation. We do that by our beliefs, by our thoughts, by all of that chatter in your head. All of that is being received in the womb. Now, just like human procreation, there are gazillions of thoughts, just like there are gazillions of little sperms swimming around. Okay? And when sperm connects with eggs, something magical happens. The same thing happens in the soul, in the activity of creation. Every thought that has ever been thunk is swimming around in there, looking for what it needs to connect to in order to come into form. Now, we can have all of the ideas we want in the human realm of what our baby will look like. Whether it will be a boy, or whether it will be a girl, or whether it will be undecided. We hope it will have 5 fingers and 5 toes on each hand and each foot. We have an idea of what color eyes it might have, or how much hair and what color. But the reality of it is, you have zero control over what's happening in that fetal development. Now, our desire to know is so strong, we have evolved all kinds of medical technology to let us know ahead of time. That's not going to happen spiritually, just so you know. There's no spiritual sonogram you get to do to find out the form of how your idea in creation is going to form and manifest. And I think that's where we get ourselves stuck, is that we expect it to show up in exactly the limited form that we can imagine. Now stay with me here, because the problem with that scenario is we never get anything new. Because the only image you have in your head comes from the past. We don't have a physical image of something we've yet to experience. We have ideas. We have notions. We have nudges. And so perhaps the activity of soul is that we participate in this creative process by holding in consciousness, in mind, what we want to experience. And then when those divine nudges come up that say, go do this, go do it. And too many of us, if we're being honest, we just want to kick back and wait for the delivery. Now, in human terms, that might work for us guys, but trust me, it does not work for the one carrying the fetus. Everything is changing in her body, and she is experiencing nudges that are often experienced as less than divine. At the point where it becomes physically uncomfortable, the fetus is pushing on the bladder's not acting like it used to act. And all that is like, at some point in the human realm, get out. And it makes sense. And how often when our spiritual evolution becomes, in that third trimester, a little uncomfortable, we're like, get out, manifest already. Doesn't necessarily work that way. What happens in 9 months in the human body might be 9 years in the spiritual realm. We don't get to control that piece. We were having an interesting conversation Wednesday night about, so if everything manifests and it's my idea, how come sometimes I see it manifest somewhere else? Great question. Truth be told, there's no such thing as your mind and my mind. There's one mind, right? So every idea is in that activity in the womb. It's being formed. It begins to kick. It begins to move. Everybody in the one, every cell in the one, gets to experience that movement and those divine nudges. And so if you say no, somebody else gets to say yes to that divine idea. It will manifest. It may not manifest through you directly, but it will manifest in creation somewhere. Because the whole thing with law is that the soul, the activity of creation, operates as law. It operates with that precision that natural law operates. Water evaporates, rains. That's a natural law. It's going to happen. Okay. Mind is received in the womb, and a conception takes place. And a development of that idea takes place. And just like in human form, at some magical point, which we can't still describe in medical, cell differentiation happens. And so that idea in the mind of the infinite begins to differentiate. And one part might show up over here in this cell, just like this little clump of identical cells in the body, in the physical body, begins to make a liver, it begins to make a kidney, it begins to make arms and legs. That divine idea in soul, in the activity of creation, begins to differentiate. And so part of that divine idea shows up in this person, and part of it shows up in this person, and part of it shows up in this resource. And so we follow those divine nudges, those resources come together, and ta-da, manifestation is birthed. We have to get beyond, this is my idea, to it's an idea in the mind of the infinite. And sometimes, just like cell differentiation, it may not be your specific divine idea, but you're getting one of those nudges in the cell differentiation of mind manifestation, if you will. And so you're being called into manifestation of something that you on the physical realm have yet to think of. And if you follow that divine nudge, it brings you into community, into connection with the other parts of that, and manifestation happens. We get really stuck in our human myopicness. And it's easy to treat spirit like a vending machine. Pop in an idea, pull out a product. It's not how it works, folks. It's just not how it works. I've been contemplating and in prayer about this whole virus thing. Because we can't say that it's all God, except that virus. That's not God. That doesn't work. So the coronavirus is as much God as everything else. Has to be that way. And it's interesting to me, I know for a fact, there are millions of people praying for climate healing. And how instantly and drastically our carbon footprint has been reduced worldwide. We don't get to script how the manifestation shows up. We just don't. I'm not saying, and I want to be really clear here, because there are mental processes that will default to, God did this to us. No. There's no God outside of you doing anything to you. Had a brief but very powerful exchange with John yesterday toward the end of the rehearsal. Bottom line is, viruses are part of evolution. Scientifically, they're a necessary function to evolve. Without them, we wouldn't be here in human form. Now, I don't understand the science of that. I won't even pretend to. If you want to know, talk to John. I'm pretty sure he knows, because he reminded me with such authority. And so, instead of leaning into all of this with fear, what if we took the very practical, you're walking down the sidewalk, and off in the distance, you see a bus. And you notice that the bus is no longer traveling in its lane, but is barreling right down the sidewalk toward you. Okay? Perhaps the infinite intelligence of the divine that is your intelligence would nudge you to move off the sidewalk. Yes? Yes. And how many of us, I'm watching brilliant spiritual leaders go after one another in unkind ways, doing the consciousness police thing. That it's not real. Stop believing in it. So here's what I want to say about that. I can't quite figure out how how anything could be created unreal out of absolute reality. So it's, as Ernest Holmes said, it's as real as it is supposed to be at its level of expression. It isn't the absolute truth. That's accurate. But to say that it's not real is kind of like, for me, and I'm just sharing my thoughts, it's kind of like standing there on the sidewalk going, that bus is real. Nope, bus isn't real. I'm just going to keep walking on the sidewalk. And then I'm a spot on the sidewalk. Because lo and behold, the bus was real, as was the sidewalk, as was I. So if you are feeling a divine nudge to stay home and do so guilt-free. Do so with joy and with the absence of shame. If you're feeling a divine nudge to come here, come here. We're going to be here. We're going to observe as best we humanly can those suggested parameters, because that's being in integrity. And we're going to do that from a place of spirituality, not from a place of fear. When I was in here moving these chairs, every chair I touched was in love. I put on meditation music, and it was a prayerful arrangement. Guide me in how to set this up. Guide me in what we are supposed to do. Listen to the movement of the fetus in the soul. Listen, feel the kicking of what is being birthed. And follow those divine nudges. You don't have to, you get to. Whole different thing. You don't have to do anything, but we, by divine right, get to follow divine guidance, because that's who we are. Now, if that doesn't excite you, I'm not sure I can help you. Trust the divine knower in you. You don't need to ask anybody's permission to do what you know is right for you. Because what's right for you may be completely wrong for somebody else. We're not all traveling in the same organism. Trust your divine nudges and honor everybody else's. And if you're hoarding toilet paper, stop it!
Yeah.
There's some real basic needs that folks have, y'all. And I'm saying that to everybody who's watching and listening. Relax. If you look at my Facebook page, relax. Nothing's under control. Because, and I'm going to wrap up with this. No one has seen, except under a microscope, none of us walking around is going to see the virus. We're not going to see it. We'll see the effects of it. We'll see rhetoric about it. But really, in the human realm, the little booger's quite invisible. Okay? So stop wasting your time. Where is it? I know it's here somewhere. Relax. If you need to clear your throat, I've watched a couple of you in here. It's like you clear your throat and you look around going, no, I'm okay. I'm good. It's just hay fever. I'm okay. Relax. That doesn't mean ignore, but let's hold this all lightly and trust the infinite intelligence that we have available to us. In terms of the center, we're going to continue just like we're doing for now. There'll be more information coming out about classes and events and what we're going to have and what we're not going to have. This week, quite honestly, was just spent in a dead run scramble to figure today out. And so, if we needed to get more in the moment, here we are. So trust yourself. Stop reacting to what somebody else thinks. Let them think what they think. It's not your job to change what they think. And it's not your job to change who you are to satisfy what they think. So remember this phrase, everybody does it different. Okay? Everybody does it different. Just do you. Everybody else is taking. Okay? Have fun with your conception process, what you are putting into the spiritual womb of the soul. Be attentive. Be clear. Take responsibility for your thoughts and get in your own lane. Deborah tells a story about a member of a 12-step group that shared that he was busy obsessing. He was driving down the road and he was busy obsessing about somebody else's life, and all of a sudden he heard, not in his vehicle, "Get in your own lane," from the CHP officer behind it. And it's a great reminder. So if you catch yourself straying out of your own lane, get in your own lane. Okay? Bring it back to you. If someone is engaging you and they're asking what you think, be brave enough to tell them. Be brave enough to tell them. After all, they ask. Perhaps that's their divine nudge. And tell them the truth as you see it. And understand that we're always sharing the truth as we're experiencing it. There is no such thing as the truth. There are many truths, and there are many experiences of truth. So live there. Embrace everybody else living there. Keep a check if you're not a Facebook person, because that's where a lot of the information is going to go, at least initially, is on our Sierra Center Facebook page. I'm probably going to be rolling out Zoom calls probably twice a day if folks want to come get prayer, if folks want to come join together in virtual community to share. We're going to ramp some things up, and we're going to use technology, the divine idea of God in technology, to do that. So, I'm hearing Reverend Joyce DeFala, when she had to call and tell us about something that was, by all appearances, really, really wrong. The first thing she said was, before I say anything else, remember, absolutely nothing has gone wrong. And so that's our thing to remember. No matter what it looks like, absolutely nothing has gone wrong. Let's take this in prayer. Recognizing that there is only one infinite, ever-present allness, that it is all there is. And so everything that is must be it in some form and experience. That it is the activity of the seen and the unseen. That it is that power, that presence, that light, that love, that abundance, that intelligence that literally creates out of itself as the source through the activity of itself as law, as soul, into manifestation of form and experience. And knowing that to be true, I know that my life is the divine's life. Not some version of it, but it is the divine's life in form. I am living its life. It is experiencing itself in the form of my life. And what is true of me, given that all are created out of one source, must be true of all. And so every form is the divine in form. Every form is the life of God, of Spirit, by whatever name we call it. Every form and experience is it. And so knowing this to be true, feeling its truth in every fiber of my being, I speak my word, claiming, affirming, standing on the authority of creation itself, that all is truly well. That there can be no activity in the infinite against itself. That life, the expression of the infinite in every form, is happening for itself. And so as it must be happening for each of us. And so we lean into those divine nudges. We lean into a bigger yes than we have ever imagined leaning into. That we participate actively, consciously, joyfully in the healing of the seen and the unseen. That by virtue of living by spiritual principle, we are a healing presence. We say yes to that. And as I hear the words come out of my mouth, I feel the gratitude rise up in my soul. I feel that divine nudge that just says, holy wow, look what I get to do. Yes, yes, yes. And so from this place of deep gratitude, from this place of just childlike excitement, I can confidently release my word, which is the word of the infinite spoken through this physical being, into its activity that I know as law, as soul. I can take my human hands off. I can take my human control off and just simply let it be exactly as it is to be. I invite you to join me as we say together, and so it is.